This is chapter 8, which is about perfect competition. This is the first model we're going to build, and we're going to build a series of models or a sequence of models about revenue. So the last chapter did costs. To calculate profit, that's revenue minus costs, we need different revenue models. So perfect competition is one model. As soon as I say a model, you know it's a simplification and has assumptions. So what are my assumptions in perfect competition? That there are many firms and that they're small. What small firms means in this context is the firms have no market power. That means that by themselves they're not big enough to affect the price. Therefore, they're going to be price takers. We assume all firms produce the same exact good so that the buyers don't care what firm they buy from. That doesn't happen in very many markets. So it's a specialized assumption, but it makes things clear in an interesting way. And the third assumption is going to be that there's free entry and exit. So that says you don't need a license to enter this business. When you leave it, you don't have to pay severance packages to anyone. Firms are free to come and go as they choose. Remember, we were talking about opportunity costs, so clearly sort of says it's easy to access opportunity costs. There's no fixed costs or sunk costs to get there. The key to firm making decision, the key to how firms make decisions compares marginal cost, how much does it cost to build one more output, and marginal revenue, how much does the firm get back from selling that good. Since total profits are total revenue minus total costs, marginal profits are going to be marginal revenue minus marginal cost. How many should you produce? If the marginal revenue is positive and greater than marginal cost, is that a good idea? Yeah, profit goes up. If marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, profit would go down. You don't want to sell that one, so you keep selling, and then it doesn't matter whether you make the very last one when marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So that's sort of the decision process. We're actually going to use that exact process in all of the kind of industries we're going to talk about. What's interesting in this model, and you should pay attention to every model, is how do you determine marginal revenue? In this perfectly competitive story, the firm can't affect marginal revenue. It's whatever the market price is. So marginal revenue equals price in perfect competition. But marginal revenue will not equal price in all the other ones we're talking about. So it's a special assumption here. So the firm has three choices, as we mentioned before: what business to be in, what price to charge, and what output to produce. We're already assuming the firm's in this market, so in some sense, what market to be in is a long run decision. And so we're going to first talk about the short run decisions, which is what price to charge and what output to produce. In perfect competition, I just told you what price we're going to charge. We're going to charge the market price. Since the firms don't care who they buy from, that means if you charge a penny higher than the market price, no one's going to buy from you. And since you're so small, no one's going to notice. That's what the market power means, equaling zero means. Is there any benefit from selling at a price below the market price? No, you can sell all you want at the market price. So therefore, you're going to charge the market price. That's your choice. And so in this model, there's only one choice. That's not too hard to get. Now the question is what output to produce. And I just told you. You produce so that the marginal revenue of the good you sell equals the marginal cost of producing it, because you want to make sure you do all of the outputs before then. So you've already been exposed to this model in the past. This is assuming the firm's goal is to maximize profit. Figure 8.4 is a great demonstration of positive profit and zero profit, which is sort of the long run equilibrium. How does the industry get to zero profit? So that's where the other assumption that we made, which was a free entry and exit, really matter. Because firms are going to enter and exit, that's going to change market price. But it takes a lot of firms to do it, not just one. And so what's the supply curve of an individual firm? It's going to be the marginal cost curve above the average variable cost curve. Make sure you got that. That's the short run supply curve of the firm. So to get the market supply, what do? You add up all the supply curves of the individual firms. And the book talks about that. They talk about some special cases. They talk about what happens if you had, for example, a single firm with multiple plants, and they build the supply curve that way. They talk a little bit about producer surplus. which is sort of like normal profit. If you remember, we were talking about your opportunity cost. And so you want to get a hold of that. That's a trick, but it's pretty clear about how to do that. And then graph 8.15 shows the effect of entry on the firm. So this is going from the short run supply curve to really the long run supply curve. And that's what they develop in figure 8.16. One of the interesting things is to talk about adjustment costs, which we often don't talk about when we first present this model. But it's an interesting thing to think about and to have some implications for the long run part of the market. The book has some good examples about how to do this. They talk a little bit about what's the effect of changes in the constraints of the firm on the market supply. So what happens if technology of production improves? What happens if the input prices change? And you want to be an expert about how to manipulate that. So that'll be our model of perfect competition. That's really, I'm assuming that's a repeat of what you already know. The cool thing about this perfectly competitive model that we just replaced is what it implies about the economy as a whole. You have firms being in the best industry that they can be in. You have firms using their inputs as the best they can. You have firms producing the outputs that the consumers want the most. This is why economists love to talk about perfect competition, because it really does set up an economy whose sole purpose is to benefit the consumers, and the firms are working as hard as they can to make money, and they make average money, normal profits. And therefore, no other system of allocating resources can do as well as perfect competition. It might match it, but it can't do better. It's doing the best possible.